Good morning, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome back to another Facebook Live. We'll see how many people actually show up because I didn't post a reminder today. Okay, I'm just pulling up my iPad so I can see any comments. Okay, make sure that you say hi when you pop in, whether you're watching live or the replay. My name is Sherry Roth. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Mary Liz. I can always count on you guys to be here. My name is Sherry Roth. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Canada. And every Friday, well, most Fridays at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, I go live with some little bit of crafting. Good morning, Kim. And the way that you always have the opportunity to win the project that I create live. And the way that you can do that is by commenting, asking questions, just participating in the conversation while it's live or even afterwards on the replay or when I upload it to YouTube, okay? And if you share the video, then you get 5 entries. So we're gonna start with drawing for last week's project. This was what we created last week for anybody who missed it. You can always catch the replay either on my YouTube channel or just look for last Friday's date. Actually, I think it was last Thursday that I did it last week. So I've got everybody's name in here, and the winner is Kim. And you're here this morning, Kim. So I will pop that in the mail for you. Congratulations. All right. So it's Friday the 13th, hey? How's everybody's Friday the 13th going? Anything go wrong this morning? Anything interesting? I realized, good morning, Leanne. I realized that it was about 10:30 and I'm like, why do I feel so tired? I forgot to have my morning coffee. So I apologize. I'm drinking it while I'm live here. I felt so tired. I couldn't figure out why, and I completely forgot to drink my coffee this morning. So that would explain it. Okay, a few things before we start crafting. First up, Sunday is the last day that you can sign up for the hashtag Elfie heartfelt card class in the mail or to go. Here's another little peek at the projects. So you will get the supplies to create 2 of each of these cards. This one's a cute little shaker card, and 1 box. So the intention is you have 1 set for you to use or to keep as inspiration, and 1 set to tuck into the box and use as a gift. And the cost of the class is $56.60. That includes shipping. That includes the product. So the hashtag Elfie stamp set. It includes these little. I have them here somewhere. Snowflake sequins. So a container of those. Oh, and I just lost some. A little container of those, and then the foam adhesive strips, a package of those. Good morning, Wanda. Good morning, Christine. So basically you are paying for the cost of supplies, and you get all of the pre-cut supplies to create the projects for free. So it's a pretty sweet deal. So if you're local, then there's no shipping. If I do need to ship it to you, then the shipping is extra, and we can work that out. Anyone in Canada can participate. And you have access to a Facebook group where on, I believe it's the 17th that morning, which I think is Tuesday morning, I'm gonna go live and I'm gonna create the projects live. It's exclusive to that group. And then if you're not on Facebook, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not on Facebook, you can still participate. What I do is I upload the video to YouTube and I send you a PDF with a link to the video and all the dimensions and everything. So it's really fun. Yes, I am looking forward to our crafting weekend as well, Leanne. I can't wait. Okay, all right, I'm gonna flip the camera around and we're gonna go ahead and get started, so just bear with me for a second. Oh man, I look tired this morning. I don't know if it's just because I didn't have my coffee or what. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks all right. Okay, so we are creating with the hashtag Elfie stamp set again today. Good morning, Amy. I seriously love this stamp set. It is so cute, but we're gonna do something fun. We're gonna do something a little bit interactive. Yeah, yeah, you guys kept me up too late last night. That's what it is, Mary Liz. All right, so you wanna see what we are creating today? Just give me a second here. Okay, so this adorable little card, yes, coffee. What would we do without coffee? I agree with you, Caroline. And then you open it up and it spins. So it's a little spinner card. So I'm gonna show you how to make that. And then I'm also gonna show you how you can use your Stamparatus to get a reverse image. Because if you look in the stamp set, there is only one of those images, and you can see that I have it front and back. And you can't just stamp two of those images, because if you flip it over, they're not gonna match up, right? They're gonna be opposite. So, good morning, Shirley. So I'm gonna show you how you can use your Stamparatus to get that reversed image. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's do that first. So I'm gonna pull in my Stamparatus. So this is a stamp positioning tool. If you're not familiar with it, this is the one that Stampin' Up carries, and it is amazing, amazing. You can use it with red rubber stamps, but you can also use it with photopolymer stamps. There is a black cushiony mat or foam mat that you put underneath for the photopolymer just to give it a bit more height. And what I have on here is I have my silicone mat on here. For this technique, you will need this, but I always suggest having a silicone mat in your Stamparatus when you're stamping, because if you look at this, there is a little bit more height around where the hinges are. So sometimes if you have an image that's kind of really close to the spine, sometimes you don't have quite enough height to get a nice, clean, crisp image. So this extra silicone mat gives you just that extra bit of height so that you get a nice, clean image every time. Okay, so I always have one in here, but for this particular reverse stamping technique, you do need one, okay? All right, so I've got a piece of Whisper white cardstock, and that is not cut straight at all, but that shouldn't be a problem. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to ink up our stamp. I'm just using Memento because I plan on coloring with the Stampin' Blends. Making sure it's nice and well inked. I'm gonna stamp it down, just apply a little bit of pressure. So that is my regular one. That's good, I'm done with that. So now I'm going to move this out of the way, and then what I'm gonna do is I am going to re-ink this, and I'm going to stamp right on my Stamparatus. Yes, right on my Stamparatus. But it's okay because it's Memento ink and it will wipe off really nicely. And I'm gonna ink it up again and stamp down. And just apply a little bit of pressure. And then I'm going to put my cardstock down, lining it right up in the corner. I'm going to put my magnet down on top. I'm gonna give this a quick clean. It doesn't really matter if you clean it or not, but I'm just gonna give it a quick clean, and then I'm going to stamp it down, and that just applies the pressure where your stamped images is. Don't worry about that ghosty. And then look at that. And I'm not worried, that peeking is a little bit blurry, but I'm gonna cut just the elf out. I'm not gonna use the words anyways. And obviously I wouldn't use those words because they're backwards. All right, and then look at this with Memento ink. You can see it on there very faintly. You just give it a wipe and it's gone. So I wouldn't necessarily do unless you just don't care about your silicone mat, I wouldn't necessarily do this technique with stays on. I mean, you could, but it is going to, I don't know how well it would come off with stays on ink, and you could try the stays on cleaner. I'm not sure how good. To be honest, I haven't tried it, so I'm not sure how well it would come out. So now we've got our reversed image and we've got our regular image. So then we're gonna color them in, both of them in. And the colors that I'm using Call Me Clover. I'm using Crumb Cake, Light Petal Pink, and Wink of Stella. So I'm just gonna quickly color in one of these little guys. Actually, I might not even do the whole thing. You guys have seen me color before, and I'm not great, so. Okay, so I'm adding a bit of light Call Me Clover. Just coloring that in. I'm gonna go back and add a bit of shading. Mary Liz says, I would think that the Stays On cleaner would eat the matte if it damages silicone stamps. And yeah, that's what I would think too. I think over time, that Stays On cleaner, I don't know what's in it, but to get that ink clean off of stamps, it can't be stuff that anything that's good for anything that's good for you. So I try to only use Stays On when I really, really need to use Stays On. It is a great ink. I mean, it's a nice, beautiful, crisp black ink. So then I'm gonna use some Crumb Cake to color in the little elf's hair. And then just go in and just under his hat where his hair is probably just a little bit darker, just add a bit of dark in there and then blend it with the light. You still have a couple days to sign up for my Blends Club too. If you Blends on a Budget Club, all the information's on my blog. I can post a link to it afterwards if anybody is interested. So if you're looking to add to your collection of blends or start your blends collection, this is a great way to do it. It's a 6-month commitment, and every month you get to choose the 3 colors that you want. So you get 6 markers each month for 6 months, and then you'll get a free project from me as well with a link to a video on how to put it together, and it'll give you little tips on how to use your markers and everything. Okay, so I've got these already colored out, colored in and fussy cut. You don't need to watch me do that. So here we go. There's both my little elves colored in, cute, cute. I'll set that aside, use those for another one. And what I did was I used, don't know if you can see that shimmer, but I used the clear Wink of Stella on the pom-pom of the elf's hat and on the rim of his hat. Okay, now, something that I saw on a video that I thought was a really great idea, because when you fussy cut these, normally when I fussy cut, I leave just a touch of a white border around the edge. I find it's by leaving that little bit of a white border, you don't notice your flaws as much. But for this particular technique, because if you're leaving a white border all the way around, you're not going to be able to cut both sides perfectly, right? This technique works great if you've got framelits. Well, and actually framelits would only work for one side, right? Unless they're both sides. But it would be really cute, you know, those, I can't remember if we carried them, but we had little animals that had the front of the animal and the back of the animal. It would be really cute with that. Okay, so what I did was I cut kind of right on the outside of the black line. Okay, so you can still see the black line. Let me move it in a little bit closer. You can still see the black line, but I tried to not leave any white. Okay, but what I'm gonna do, because both of these are probably not gonna be perfect, they'll be pretty close, but you can see when you line them up, you can see a touch of white. Can you see that little bit of white on the edge of that hat? So to make that less noticeable, I'm going to take just my black Stampin' Right marker. Good morning, Shauna. And just, I need a new one. Just going around the edges, because then when you see the back of this, you'll see that black edge and it'll just look like the line of that front image. Does that make sense? You guys will see, you'll see it when I put it together. So I'm gonna do that for both of them. It doesn't look the best on the back here, but this is all gonna be covered over, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. For those of you who are just joining in, we are creating a spinner card using my favorite stamp set, hashtag Elfie. Okay, so we've got both of our images colored in. And now, let's see, we're gonna set those aside for a minute. And we're gonna pull in the big shot because we need to do some big shotting. Okay. So my card base is going to be, Call Me Clover, measures 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I've got a piece for my inside, which is Whisper White, measures 4 by 5 1/4. That we're gonna set aside. And then I've got another piece of Whisper White that measures 3 3/4 by 5. And then this is gonna go underneath. This is Poppy Parade, and it measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, so now we need to cut our windows. So I am using 2 dies from the Layering Circles, and they are, can I see my numbers on the back? 5, and I can't see it on this one. Let me see which one it is. So I number my layering circles from smallest to biggest. So this is the 5th smallest one, and this would be the 6th. So it's not the one that's right above it, it's one size up. So the 6th smallest scallop circle and the 5th smallest solid circle. Okay, we're gonna move this out of the way and bring in the big shot because we need to run this through several times. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my window out of white. So I want it to be even on both sides and then a little bit closer to the top. You can do it in the center as well, but I'll show you why I chose to do it at the top in a little bit. I think that looks good. So I'll just run that through. And then I'm gonna pop out that circle, and then I'm going to position this on here so that there's a nice even border. Put this back on here. Let's move this over so you guys can see. I'm not gonna stick it down yet. If I had stamped my snowflakes already, then I could stick it down at this point. So I'm just gonna position it so it's right in there, and then I'm going to slide that in there, and you know it's nice and snug when it doesn't want to slide. Feed that through. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my card base, because you need your hole in the same position for all of them. Okay, so I'm going to open my card, because I don't need to cut a hole through the back of the card. Actually, let's move that one out of the way. So now I'm gonna center this. So this has a little bit of a bigger border. And then position that on again. Make sure it's nice and snug, doesn't wanna move. And then feed that through. Why do I have colored stickers on my cutting plates? Good question, Amy. Okay, let me share a little trick with you. So, this one says top. I have a sticker there and I have a sticker there. They both say top. This one says bottom, and it says bottom on both sides. So a little tip that I learned to keep your mats flat is I always use the same mat on the bottom. But as soon as there's any give, like it's pretty good right now, either side, well, this side has a tiny little bit of give. So if you push on it and it moves at all, then that means you need to flip it over. So you're constantly rotating that bottom pad, and you always keep this one for the top. And again, every once in a while I flip it over, so I'm not always using the same side, and then I cut it that way. The other thing is I always use, you'll notice that the cutting mats are marked up all the way around. I don't always cut in the center. when I'm cutting things to prep for classes and things like that, I'm always trying to use the outside because I know that my customers almost always go to the center. So I want to make sure that my pad is being used all the way around, and that keeps it from warping as well. And then the other thing is, when this one gets really, really marked up, and over time it will, you'll notice, actually I have another magnetic platform, that this label is almost worn right off. And it's because it's rough. When you start using this lots, I mean, it roughens up, right? So it's gonna mess this up. It doesn't affect its use, but when I'm ready to replace this bottom one, this one gets thrown out. This one, the label gets covered over to say bottom. This one gets moved to the bottom, and I bring out one new cutting mat. So it stretches the use of my cutting mats so that I don't have to use a whole set every time I need to replace them. I'm just replacing one at a time. So it makes them last a lot longer. I'm getting my money's worth out of them. Okay, so hopefully that helps. All right, so now I've got a scrap of Poppy Parade, and I'm taking that scallop circle and that solid circle that I used, and I'm cutting them both at the same time. Does it matter which one you use for embossing? For embossing, I use, well, most of our embossing folders now you only need one, and I will use the top, usually the top. But it doesn't really matter, because if they're both flat, then either one will work, and you're not really affecting them. So yeah, that's a good question, Amy. It doesn't really matter when you're embossing what mat you use. But for the most part, most of the folders that I have and that I use are either dynamic or 3D. So I really only need one folder, and I usually just grab the top, but I could grab the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Okay. All right. So let's move that out of the way. So let me show you. So I popped out that center circle. I'm not going to need that. What I am going to need is this little frame. Okay, so let's move those guys out of the way. Let's do this next so that it can dry. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I wanted to make this sparkly, so I'm gonna use some shimmery crystal effects and some of our new ice stamping glitter. Let me just take a drink here. Oh, that's nice and cold. Ugh. Anybody else like cold coffee? Ugh, can't stand it. Okay, so I'm gonna take my crystal effects and I'm gonna work about on half of this at a time. I'm just going to cover this with crystal effects. You could probably use Tombow or even our fine tip glue for this as well. It doesn't have to be the crystal effects. I just like that this dries clear. And it's not sticky, whereas the Tombow, when it dries, it still is sticky. Okay, so I'm gonna work, like I said, about halfway around the circle, or maybe even a third of the way around to the circle. Okay, and then I'm gonna sprinkle it with the ice stamping glitter. I love this glitter. You could even add this glitter added to shaker cards for a little bit of sparkle and snow. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm dumping that on, and then I'm just gonna use my thumb and just push that in there. And then that will dry nicely in there. And then I just keep going and do the whole way around, but I have one that's already done, so you guys don't need to watch me do it over and over again. Shauna says cold coffee, unless it's a Starbucks iced mocha, not a fan. Yeah, cold coffee is just not good. I cannot do that. Tiramisu on the other hand, I can do tiramisu. Okay, so let's move this piece out of the way and bring back our pieces. Where? Oh no, I am gonna need this. Okay, let's do our stamping on the background here. I have some here, somewhere here. Okay, So I've got Pool Party ink, and I'm gonna stamp some snowflakes in the background. So this is just that snowflake image from the hashtag Elfie stamp set. And I'm just going to ink it up and stamp. And I'm not gonna re-ink every time. And you'll notice that I'm rotating it around. I don't want my snowflakes to look like they're always in the same position. And I'm going off of the page for some of them. Add a little bit more here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now I think we can get rid of this. Oh, I need to do one more thing on the Big Shot. Okay, so now I've just got a scrap of white here, and I wanted the words no peeking without the elf. So I'm just going to use that Stampin' Right marker that I have pulled out. Just ink up just the words. Give it a huff, and then stamp down. And then I'm going to use another favorite from the holiday catalog. These are the ornate framelit dies. These are in the Halloween section. They're with the Monster Bash suite, and they are not Halloween-y at all. You can use them for anything. So I'm going to use this particular frame and cut it out using the Big Shot. So I gotta bring the Big Shot back in here. All right, so I'm just gonna put that on here. And I'm gonna move it down so it's a little bit closer, so not completely centered, so it's a little bit closer to the bottom edge of the tag. And then feed that through. That's one of the disadvantages to using the pads so much and them getting marked up, is sometimes the cardstock will stick to it. I know, Shauna, I love them too. Andrew says night before Christmas. Okay, oh, let's pop this guy out. We don't need that. Now we can start our layering. So I'm going to, actually before I do that, we need to put our little elf together. Okay, so I need my silicone mat. So the other thing that a silicone mat is great for is adhesive doesn't stick to it. So for this particular card, or part of the card that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna need to add a lot of adhesive to the backs of these. And you want to use a good adhesive. So I'm going to use Fast Fuse, which I'm coming to the end of my refill, so I'm really kind of hoarding that and saving it for my, saving it for scrapbooking more than card making, unless I need it for something like this. You want to make sure that you get it on that little pom-pom as well. So I've covered that entire surface, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. You got to be careful with that pom-pom because you don't want to rip it off. Okay, get that out of the way. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of some fishing line. So this is just something, I think I picked it up, I've had it for years. I think I picked it up at Walmart. And I'm just going to cut, where are my scissors? Cut a piece of fishing line. And then I'm gonna pull it, make sure it's tight. And let's put this so that it's straight. So I want it to go right down the middle of my elf. Did I say it was cute? Yeah, yes you did. I am too. So excited. Okay, I'm just gonna move this off of here because it's hard to see with that black edge. What weight is the fishing line? I have, it says it's 6 pounds or 2.7 kilograms. I don't think it really matters. The finer it is, the better it would be. This one feels, it seems a little thick. So it could probably have been a little bit thinner. Okay, so there's the reversed image. So you can see, it works out perfectly. And you can see, if you look around the edges, you don't see any white because I colored the back in black. So what you see is just the black from the back piece. All right, so now let's start assembling. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to position this so it's in the center of my circle, and I'm just gonna use a piece of Scotch tape, a couple pieces of Scotch tape to hold that fishing line in place. Okay. That looks good. You want to make sure that it's really stuck well. And then I'll pull this down, position it how I want it. And I'll pull it quite tight. I'm going to add another piece to the bottom of this. Okay, and then I'll trim off any excess that's hanging above or below that piece of cardstock. Okay, so now we can start assembling. So this piece is gonna go in or onto the red. Oh, Amy says she got her twine or her fishing line at Dollarama. There you go. Probably cheaper at Dollarama than it would be at Walmart. I mean, I've got more than enough. No one in my household is fishes, so I've got more than enough to last a few lifetimes, I think. Okay, so then this is gonna go on here, and the important part is just making sure that that window is lined up. And then this piece is gonna go on to our green card base. Okay, now we're gonna bring in that little frame that we made. So look how glittery that is, isn't that cute? So it'll look like it's a little window, or even a little window or a wreath with the elf peeking in behind. So just add a little bit of Tombow to this. It's been years since I made one of these cards, but for some reason this came to me yesterday and I thought, oh, it would be so cute with the Elfie stamp set with those little elves. Okay, so then I'm sticking that on there. And I've got my no peeking, and I've gone ahead and used some Call Me Clover ribbon and tied a bow. This is just gonna get stuck on here, and then I'm gonna add my bow on here. One thing that you do wanna be careful of is you wanna make sure if you're adding anything that kind of sticks into, that falls into the hole, you wanna make sure it's not going to interfere with the elf spinning. So that's one thing you do wanna be careful of. But the window is quite large compared to the little tiny elf, so it's not a problem. And I need mini glue dots. Where? Oh, here they are. So I'll add my bow on here, so that's not going to interfere at all. And then I'm going to take some of those snowflake sequins and my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to add a few snowflakes. Okay, so I want to do one about there, Okay, so then I'm just gonna pick out what I want to use. I want a snowflake, and then I want some silver. Is that still high enough that you guys can see? Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it turned out pretty adorable. It's always good when when things work the first time, when you're planning the morning of your FaceTime or your Facebook Live. Okay, so I'm gonna add 3 more, so I'm just adding 3 little dots of Tombow. I think I'll do 1 snowflake and then 2 of the silver. Boy, with this take your pick tool, you can really just pick out what you want from that little dish of sequins. Makes it so handy. All right, so now, oh, that does not go with that. So now the front of our card is done. So now I'm just gonna flip it over and add to the inside, and I didn't add anything. A couple things that you'll wanna take note of is you will want to, if you're stamping a greeting on the inside or adding anything on the inside, you will want to do it so that you can't see it through the window, okay? So you'll probably want to stamp your greeting either down here or down here. Same with writing your message. So I would almost say that it might be better to put there, and so that you have room to write your message here, because you don't want to be able to see the wording in behind the little window. But, okay, let me do this first, and then I will show you one other thing. So I thought that the no peeking for me, it seems like it would make a great option for a gift card holder. So by cutting my window a little bit higher up, if I grab a gift card, I can use a mini glue dot or a couple mini glue dots and stick it on there. So then the no peeking seems a bit more appropriate. So there we go. So we can wind him up. So what I would do is you would write in your card, add whatever it is that you want to add, and then wind this up and have it wound in the envelope, tuck it into the envelope. So I would slide it into the envelope like this, and then when you pull it out, or when the receiver pulls it out, they will open the card and it will spin. Isn't it adorable? Yes, you could add a little pocket inside too, Mary Liz. I would probably do a pocket from the sliding in from the side, well, maybe even in this way, just because at the bottom you have very little room down there. And I'd worry that it wouldn't quite slide into the pocket far enough. But yeah, you could put a little scrap piece of patterned paper on here with just a little bit of adhesive around the edges, and then just slide the gift card in this way. Or even corners, you could do little corners and have it tucked in like that. Yeah, you could definitely do that, Mary Liz. All right, so what do you think? You guys like it? Super cute, hey? Kind of a fun way to do. You could do that with a couple of the different images in this set. So the one with the stocking, I was going to use that one, and I thought, oh, I used that last month. You could do the stocking. You could even do just this guy without standing on the gift. You could do him. He'd be cute spinning too. And since you can reverse stamp, you can do anything, right? I mean, you can do any image. Photo corners, that's a great option, Amy. Yeah, photo corners would be a great way to tuck that gift card in there. All right, so thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget that Sunday is the last day to sign up for the hashtag Elfie Heartfelt Card Kit to go. And also the last day to sign up for the Blends on a Budget Club. And I will be back next Friday. I promise we won't use the hashtag Elfie stamp set. I will hold myself back and I will do something different. I promise. All right, so have a fabulous weekend. I will see you next week. Bye.